Okay, so you're gonna have to excuse my weird sounding voice. I'm a little bit sick at the moment, but today we're gonna be making some brine shrimp hatcheries. Now, in the fish room, I've started breeding quite a few fish, and those babies are starting to get up to the stage where they need brine shrimp, and kind of getting past the stage where they've been eating like powdered up stuff like, you know, egg yolk and bug buffet. So brine shrimp, I think as a breeder, is like the most important thing to be hatching out, and it's the best food to give to your tiny baby fish, and even for the bigger fish in and around the fish room, they will eat brine shrimp as well. Brine shrimp are basically like little sea monkeys, you know, the little things you used to hatch out as a kid that you used to get for Christmas, and they're essentially a tiny little shrimp that you can feed to your fish and you can hatch them out. So here's one that I've made before, but I didn't actually like this design. This one I used wire, and what I found with the wire design is at the joins here, they kind of rust out, and then the bottle falls on the floor, and then brine shrimp goes everywhere. Like, it is the worst thing. So I've got a new design, not wire. So we're gonna be making them today, and yeah, let's get into it. Okay, so the design is pretty simple. You just need to get some water bottles. I'm gonna be making 2 hatcheries, and I'll show you why at the end of the video. I went with these Kirk's ginger beer ones. They've kind of got like more of a sleek design here, which is what we're after. All you need to do to start off is literally just taking off this stuff. I mean, you can leave it on, but like looks wise, it just looks better without. So you're going to need your 2 water bottles, and then there's something else that you're going to need to order off you know, eBay or Amazon, and that's these bottle cap little things here, and I'm going to put them in the link in the description for you guys. I'm not exactly sure of the name. They're basically CO2 lids, and you're going to need, you know, however many bottles you have, 1 for each bottle, so you be the decider of that. I think 2 to 3 hatcheries is probably best. I'm going to go with 2, so you're going to need to get one of these. And then the next thing, and the last thing you'll need, is some fishing line. So usually for the hook I use wire, but the wire tends to corrode and rust out. So we've got some fishing line here, because fishing line is designed for salt water. It's very strong. This can hold up to about 40 pounds, so it's a very thick, thick line. That ain't gonna snap. I've already tried to cut it with scissors and didn't work, so they were blunt scissors though. And it is a bit flexy, so it'll be, you know, it's not the best looking, but in terms of strength, it's not gonna rust out. So I think that's gonna be good for us. So then you're gonna want to cut this, so I'm going to probably go here, follow that line there. So basically the end result's going to be something like this. Alright, so you can go ahead and do that to the other bottle. Get your lids and put them on. You can take off these little things here if you wanted to, but so I guess we can do that. These aren't necessary for anything. This one's been used before, so it's a bit gunky, but still the same thing applies. And now you're going to need something to hang them. So for hanging, we're going to use the fishing line, as I said. Probably need a little hole on each side, so we'll do that. So I'm going to use a knife for this, and I'm just going to find out, you know, somewhere there and put a hole in it. And go through the hole and tie a knot on one side. And then figure out how high you want to hang it. So I'm probably going to want it, you know, something like that. For hanging, maybe like that actually. And then just measure a bit down for the knot. Cut that. And then go ahead and tie your other knot. So there you go. That's all you're going to need, something like that. And that should hold your bottle perfectly fine. That is never going to rust out and should be very strong. So
where should I put it?
Where the spider is!
Where the spider is.
The spider's shaking around.
Wait, what the heck? Why is he dancing? He's a weird spider.
Alrighty, so I'll kind of explain the setup that I've gone with here. As you can see, they're both on a slant at the moment. The reason why is I've cut these a little bit short, but I haven't really. They're plenty long enough. It's just from the weight of them being in a U, of the lines being in a U, it kind of pulls it together, but that's because they're very, very light. Like, they're so light. So, but once they're filled with water, they're gonna hang down and that won't be a problem. So we've got the air coming in on this side now. You can control the air by turning off this little tap here. Now these are a cheap tap, they're the threaded taps. You can get other taps which are far better, like this one here, I don't know if you can see it, that are like a proper gate valve, and that's actually controlling the sponge filter at the moment. But I didn't have any on me, and these will be fine for controlling airflow. But I find the trouble with these is for the outlet where the brine shrimp's going to be coming out into, say, a feeder bucket here, like that, these don't do a very good job of it. So they seem to get all caught up with the eggs and stuff like that. So I find what the best thing to do is literally just clamp the end of a hose. You can get these little clamps off eBay. I'd say they're like 25 cents each, maybe, if that. I just found them in the fish room, they're little airline clamps, and they'll hold the end watertight, and then you can just take the clamps off and they're going to drain freely. Now I'm going to show you guys how to actually start your brine shrimp culture, hatchery, however you want to call it. So you're going to need some salt and brine shrimp eggs. Your shrimp won't hatch if it's too cold, so a lot of people when they hatch brine shrimp, they either use a heater or they'll hatch it in a room like this where the room is quite warm already. So I'm going to be hatching in a room, I won't need heaters. I believe the ones you can buy commercially actually come with a heater, I think. Don't hold me on that, but I believe that is how it is done. So grab one of your hatcheries, and you're only going to be setting one of the hatcheries up, unless you feed a lot of brine shrimp. But what I do is I turn off the tap to it, take off the side, the airline side that is attached to the central airline system. This is just how I do it. There's a lot of different ways you can do it, but I usually just take it off like this. So you've got both ends clamped. And now go fill this up with water about to this line, and I think it's around 1 litre, maybe not quite 1 litre, but just go fill it up to this line, just like that. And lay that down, and then go plug this back into the central airline, and you can turn on the tap to it. You want to kind of tone it down to just enough to keep the eggs off the bottom. So I'm going to show you guys the mixture to hatch out your eggs. So you're going to want some salt. Some people use pool salt, cooking salt, whatever salt you want. I just have cooking salt on hand. And I think this is about somewhere between 700 mils to 1 litre in here at the moment. And for that, I'm going to be putting 4 teaspoons. So this is a teaspoon here, just a general kitchen one. 4 teaspoons of salt. Now I've already added 1, so 3 more. 2, 3, a little bit more. So that's 4 teaspoons there. depending on how many fish you have, 1 to 2 teaspoons of brine shrimp eggs. Now, brine shrimp eggs you can buy usually from your fish shop. This right here is about $100, maybe $150, but this is going to feed your fish room for a long time. For people who are hatching this at home, you might be able to buy a $50 one, and that should last you a long time as well. You can store it in the fridge once you've opened it, and I'm going to be adding 1 teaspoon because I don't have a huge amount of fry in my fish room yet, but definitely enough for 1 teaspoon. So literally just sprinkle it in there like that, and then you just put that back in the fridge, and there you have it. So I'll put it up on the screen again if you've forgotten, but it's 4 teaspoons of salt and 1 to 2 teaspoons of brine shrimp eggs. Alright, so there you have it. It's a super duper simple design. Like, it's so easy to hatch brine shrimp, and I think it's almost vital to be hatching it, especially in this fish room. And for a lot of people, brine shrimp is going to be an amazing food for your fry, for juveniles, for adults. They're super high in protein, I think like 70%. So now that you've got it all set up, you're going to wait somewhere between 24 and 36 hours. I think 24 hours is fine, but you're going to get less of a hatch, and their shrimp are going to be a whole lot smaller than they will be at 36 hours. I find 36 hours for a lot of people is a sweet spot. You get the most amount of hatch, I guess, possible, and it comes at quite a good size for feeding your babies. Now, if you want to feed newly hatched brine shrimp, I guess you could hatch them at around 24 hours and feed them at 24 hours. But yeah, as I said, 36 hours is going to be perfect for us. So the temperature of the water for the best hatch possible should be somewhere between 26 and 27 degrees Celsius. I think my room probably is going to be running around somewhere between 20 and 24 degrees Celsius room temperature. So I'm definitely not going to be getting that up to standard, but I still get a decent hatch. So I would say somewhere between 24 and 27. I wouldn't go below 24. You're not going to get a very good hatch at that, but 24 minimum, 27 maximum. And yeah, leave it for 36 hours. Now, the reason I have 2 is because halfway between, or like, let's say a day before this one hatches, I'm going to start the culture in this one, so that a day after I've filled this one back up, that one will be ready. So I've got a constant cycle of brine shrimp coming through now that I've started breeding a lot of fish in the fish room. And yeah, so it's super easy to harvest. You get the harvest line like this, and literally all you need to do is unclamp that, put it in some form of container, and it's going to drain out your brine shrimp eggs. Now, before you undo this, what you're going to need to do is turn off the central air line. So you're going to need to control that control valve that I was talking about. Turn that off so there's no air going in there. Let it all settle. Now, brine shrimp are light sensitive, so if you have a light or some type of lamp, say like this one here, and you point it up at it like that, what they're going to do when the water stops bubbling is they're all going to come to this light and hopefully to the bottom here. And even naturally, they're just going to fall and settle to the bottom with or without light. But the light just helps them to come down quicker. And once they're all down the bottom, you should see the separation happen. And I mean, you can use your phone light even and hold it down there, but it's going to take a little while. Once they've all come down to the bottom, put your air line into a container, undo your clamp or turn on your control valve. They're all going to drain out and fill up your container. And then once they've all drained out of there, just turn it off, and that's instant fish food. So you can go and feed it to your fish, and then obviously pour it out, restart it, put your 4 teaspoons of salt in there, your water filled right up, and your 1 or 2 teaspoons of eggs, and then that'll be ready and ready to hatch out in 36 hours. Now, another cool little thing, of course, yeah, if you've set it up, turn on your air again, da-da-da. But another cool little thing you can do is, if you haven't fed all of the brine shrimp and you've still got it in there and you don't want to chuck it out, put it in your fridge. The shrimp are most likely going to die, but you can still feed them, and they're great food. Another thing you can do is freeze them, and then you've got frozen baby brine shrimp. That's another thing I've done before. So most of the time you just feed them live, which is what you probably ideally want to do. But if you have leftovers, you can chuck it in the fridge or freezer. and feed it, you know, for how long to come. So that's basically it. I don't think I'm missing anything. I've never used the fishing line before, but from what I can see, and for me in this fish room, it's working well. I just don't want the wired ones to rust out and fall down the back and get into all my power leads. So I think the fishing line's going to work best. This whole setup probably costs no more than $5. And you can source the parts from all over the place. I mean, this is from eBay, this is from Woolworths. Fishing line, you probably already have it at home. Airline, most likely, most fish people will have it at home. Your taps, you can get them from any hardware store, in the plumbing aisle. And, an air pump. I mean, I've got a central airline system, so I just basically plumbed into it over here. Super easy. I didn't have to really do anything, but if you have an air pump, same thing applies. Plug it into it, and you're ready to roll. So, yeah.